What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fairweather Fan Podcast. My name is Anthony, and today I have a wide range of topics that I'm going to be talking about. So I haven't uploaded a podcast, I believe, since April 4th, which was actually April 11th, which was 9 days ago at this point. And that's because I am just getting over a cold now, an allergies-induced cold, and so my throat was sore for a few days, and then I had a runny nose. Still went to work, had to do that, had to get a bunch of schoolwork done, so on top of the fact that I was insanely busy, I had this cold and was pretty much useless at doing anything other than the stuff I was doing. You know, I couldn't talk on camera for 30 minutes. I couldn't even talk to somebody for like a minute and a half on the days where I had a sore throat. But anyways, I'm back now, so let's get into it. The first topic is our weekly, well, it's becoming a kind of recurring segment, the Geniuses of the Week. And our Geniuses of the Week this week are wealthy Americans. Because you already know where this is going. If you've seen the news recently, the major topic in sports right now, even with the NBA coming to a close, the NBA regular season coming to a close, even with the NHL season coming to a close, I think in a couple of weeks, the MLB season beginning, the NFL draft is happening soon. The MLS season is starting. No one really cares about the MLS, so despite all of that, despite all the things that are going on in sports right now, the main thing that is going on is the European Super League. And so what is the European Super League? It's basically 12 teams. It was originally planned to be 15. 12 teams from Europe, from the English Premier League, from Italian Serie A, and from La Liga, 12 teams forming their own Super League. Like, it's basically Champions League, but a full season. And the reaction to this, and rightfully so, has been that this sucks because it's ruining the sport of soccer, or football, as they call it over there. And so why are our Geniuses of the Week wealthy Americans instead of the people that are forming the Super League? Well, because they're the same people. So Americans own Manchester United, they own Liverpool, and they own Arsenal. Arsenal is actually owned by Stan Kroenke, who, if that name sounds familiar, he has been in a lot of fire as of the last few years because he's the owner of the Los Angeles Rams, formerly known as the St. Louis Rams, and so he was getting a lot of slack for moving them out of St. Louis, and rightfully so, because the Los Angeles Rams stadium, at least the old LA Coliseum, because they haven't had fans this year, was always filled with fans of opposing teams. You know, no one was showing up to watch the Rams. Everybody in Los Angeles is a Raiders fan. And so a lot of people had difficulty switching over. And so, you know, Dean Spanos and Stan Kroenke moving their teams to LA, a lot of people dislike that as a result. And so now Stan Kroenke is moving Arsenal from the English Premier League into a new English Super League, which everybody hates. So Stan Kroenke is pretty much the most disliked man in sports right now, since Donald Sterling back in 2012, 2011, that era. Not to compare the two, one was obviously a lot worse of a human than Stan Kroenke is, but Stan Kroenke is probably the most disliked man in sports right now. And you might say, okay, well, that's only 3 teams. What about the other teams? They have to be owned by people from other countries, right? And yeah, most of them are. But do you know who the European Super League is being bankrolled by? It's being bankrolled by a company called J.P. Morgan. And those unfamiliar with finance, J.P. Morgan is an American investment company. So it's bankrolled by Americans, and 3 American owners are part of the team that's participating in this. So it's basically Americans going over to Europe to ruin soccer. And there's a reason, I have to say this, there's a reason that the rest of the world hates us as Americans. A lot of the stereotypes about Americans are, or the one big stereotype about Americans are that we're lazy. And that's not the case, because a lot of Americans have to work more than 8 hours a week. Have to work more than one job, and I'm not going to go into whether or not this is right or wrong. Obviously, as somebody with that sticker up in the background, I don't believe that that's right. But Americans, we live in a capitalist society, and a lot of Americans at the bottom of that system have to work multiple jobs while also providing for their family and all that. That's a big stereotype. And so I don't want to like completely be disrespectful to Americans, because Americans are great people, even more so than I would say some other countries. Not to kind of engage in American exceptionalism, but compared to some other countries, we have to fight for a lot more, than some other people in some other countries have to fight for. Our healthcare system is kind of screwy. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, Democrat or Republican, our healthcare system is really weird. It costs a lot of money to get drugs that are like prescription drugs that cost nothing in some other countries. So, Americans, I would not say we are lazy people. But, the rest of the world, their stereotypes are that we're lazy and we intervene in a lot of things. And this is a perfect example of that second stereotype being correct. And all the wars and stuff that we like to stick our noses into, to make a profit. This is why even Americans hate their own politicians, because we keep on fighting these stupid wars. But now we are intervening in, we have decided collectively, or the wealthy Americans have collectively decided that intervening in other countries to fight wars is not enough anymore, and so we're going to intervene in other people's culture, in European culture now. That's what we're going to do. We're going to intervene in their soccer, their football, the thing that they like the most as a hobby. And so, first of all, the MLS, which is the United States Soccer League, wouldn't exist at the capacity that it does today if it weren't for the EPL and, to a lesser extent, the German Bundesliga, because the EPL is on NBC every morning. People tune in to watch it, and you can see, they don't have these anymore because of COVID, but they used to have, these fan gatherings, and they would, go to different cities in the United States and have, American fans holding up scarves, wearing jerseys and stuff. The English Premier League is pretty big in the United States. It's the biggest international league in the United States, where there are no teams playing in the United States. It is the biggest league in which there are no teams from the United States playing in it. And so, as a result of people flocking to watch the English Premier League every Saturday and Sunday morning since, at least 2011, that's when I started to get into it. What was I? Basically, what has happened is we have taken something that was popularized because of Europe and ruined it for them. So now our own idiot billionaires are going overseas and ruining the sport for wealth reasons, greedy purposes, whatever you want to go with. And it's so bad that they have, even the Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, is trying to intervene in this. So, all in all, it's just a sad week for soccer. And, it makes you, when you read a lot about this and you read, who the people involved in this are, it's just sad to be American, and to watch this go on with people in your country basically trying to intervene in someone else's culture, intervene in another country's hobby into something that they enjoy, for their own selfish, greedy purposes. It's just sad. Anyway, let's move on now to the main topic of today's video. It's not going to go on too long. This is actually probably going to be a pretty short podcast, just because I'm still getting over this cold. But the NBA, who should be in the top 3 of the MVP race? And for me, this is an easy question to answer. And first of all, I want to say, not in this order. I'm not saying that this should be the order, but the top 3 candidates for the MVP race are Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Steph Curry. Again, not necessarily in that order. Steph Curry right now, as of last week, or I think they just released their power rankings on Friday the 16th, onto who should be the league MVP. Steph Curry was 9th. That is ridiculous to me. And that's what I want to really kind of talk about here. The guys who are above him, there's no questioning whether or not they are good, but if you look at what Steph Curry has done this season, and I'm partially talking about this now because they played the Sixers last night, and the Sixers are a good team, and even though they were without Simmons and Harris, you still had the Warriors, without Klay Thompson, of course, coming into Philadelphia and beating the Sixers, and, with both teams shorthanded, it's a pretty even matchup. And it was a pretty close matchup. But, you had Embiid versus Curry, and Curry actually got the better of that battle this time. And so, I am curious as to why Steph Curry is so low on the list when he is leading the NBA in 2 categories, points per game and 3-pointers per game. And he is also the only one who is leading more than one category. How is this guy not in the top 3? Let alone first or second. I mean, if we're talking about, and the Warriors are 1-6 without Curry this season, so they're completely a poverty franchise without him. I mean, they're 29-29 right now. They're 9th in the Western Conference. They're probably going to make the play-in round unless the Pelicans catch up. I don't think they will. But, they're tied with San Antonio right now. They don't have anybody. They have Steph Curry, and that's it. Steph Curry is single-handedly guiding the Warriors into a playoff spot or a play-in round spot, whatever you want to go with. And they're probably going to play in that play-in round. And if they win and they go to the actual playoffs, there is no excuse why he shouldn't win MVP. And I know it's all about regular season. It's not about playoffs or play-in or whatever it should be, but it's not. Without a doubt, Curry is definitely a top 3 player this season. And if we're talking about most valuable player, the most valuable player to their team, if you look at that statistic that says the Warriors are 1-6 without him this season, which is, let's see, what's that exact win percentage? 16%. That's a 16% win percentage. I know it's a small sample size, but 16 to 17% win percentage, as opposed to a 500 win percentage with Curry. Actually, more than that, 500 win percentage overall, but more than that, they have a winning record with Curry. Whereas they have a losing record, a tremendous losing record without him. And so if you're talking about the most valuable player to their team, given that, it's definitely Steph Curry. And, the Sixers, I guess you really can't judge Jokic because he's played in every game. So you can't see, how the team plays without him. I doubt that they would be winning as many games. But the Sixers are 9-9 without Embiid. And remember, on that 6-game road trip versus some of those top teams out in the West, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Warriors, even though the Warriors then were without Curry, they were 4-2 without him. And they're 500 total on the season without Embiid. And so, in my eyes, as a Sixers fan, I think that Joel Embiid is the best player in the league. I do think that Curry is the most valuable player, though, to his team. Because he's carrying them at this point. He's going to need back surgery in the offseason from carrying his team. And so, I think that it should be... I don't think Embiid should win MVP because he's missed 18 games this season. And, you know, even though he is the best player, even though he is probably one of the most clutch players in the league this season, I think if you miss 18 games, you kind of automatically take yourself out of the discussion. And so I don't think he will win MVP. If he does, that's great. I don't care about personal accolades. I just want them to win a damn championship. But if you're talking about the most valuable player, and you're talking about players that have played pretty much every game this season, I mean, Embiid has been out pretty much a third of them. It has to be either Jokic or Curry. Without a doubt, in my mind. It has to be Jokic or Curry. And I would be okay with either of them. I would be okay with Embiid, but Curry should definitely finish in the top 3. That's not even a question. So anyway, moving on now. The Philadelphia Phillies. This is the last topic already. I know. It's a short podcast. Is it time for the Phillies to bring up Odubel Herrera? The outfield hasn't recorded a hit in 10 days. 10 days. They have played, I don't know how many games then, at least 8 or 9. They've had a couple of off days, a couple of games postponed. They've played at least 8 or 9 games in those 10 days, and they haven't gotten a single hit. Roman Quinn is batting .040. Mickey Moniak is 0 for 12 this season. And Adam Hazley is out. First of all, he's out, and second of all, he can't catch. He's dropped 2 easily catchable balls, and Mickey Moniak almost dropped a ball yesterday. And so the answer is yes. It is time to bring up Odubel Herrera. If they're still working on Scott Kingery's swing, then that's fine. I want them to bring up Scott Kingery because I have a jersey of Scott Kingery, and so I'm disappointed that he didn't perform well in spring training. You know, and as a result, I think he's going to be staying down there for a bit. I think he's going to be playing some games with Redding. And so as a result, their backup, well, technically the backup to the backup to the backup right now is Odubel Herrera. And so, you know, I know they're kind of reluctant because they don't know, you know, how people are going to react to him being called up with all the stuff that's happened. But honestly, you already signed him. He's already on your roster. Like, why is he not in the majors right now? Nobody else on your team can hit. Do you really, like, not like this guy enough that you'd keep him down? Like, and if that's the case, why did you sign him? Like, he performed pretty well in spring training. A lot of people wanted him to be brought up right off the bat. I didn't think they should have brought him right up. I think they should have given some of these other guys a chance. But they gave him a chance now, and they all failed. And so now you have a chance to bring up Odubel Herrera. Even though he might get a mixed reaction from the crowd, you signed him for a reason. You let him back in your organization. He is usable in that center field position. So you need to bring him up. Otherwise, what was the point of signing him? And so, hopefully later in the season, the depth chart, assuming Herrera does well, will be Kingery and Herrera at 1 and 2 interchangeably. I don't know like how they're going to perform this season, depending on which one is better. If Herrera is better, he should be at the 1 spot. If Kingery is better, he should be at the 1 spot. And then Hazley should be at 3, and Mickey Moniak and Roman Quinn. Well, Roman Quinn should be DFA'd. Mickey Moniak just needs a little bit more time in the minors. And that it doesn't stop there. You know, the offense as a whole, it's not just center field. The offense as a whole still sucks. I mean, Harper has been good. Segura has been good. Didi has been good, even though he sat out yesterday. Real Muto has been good, except he struck out swinging with 2 runners in scoring position yesterday, which kind of pissed everybody off. Hoskins was doing great early on. He was like breaking records or something, like very specific records, but still records nonetheless. But now he's basically back to where he was in 2019 and 2020 and every other season. Um, you know, in these last few games, he hit 1 for 5 yesterday. I don't know how much. I don't think he hit it all in the 2-0 win versus St. Louis. You know, those have been basically the guys who have been good at some point this season. It's basically 5 players have been somewhat decent at some point this season. Harper, Segura, and Didi have been consistently good. Realmuto has been good. Hoskins has been inconsistent, but he was good early on. Everybody else is underperforming. McCutchen is underperforming by a lot. Bohm is underperforming by a lot. I mean, except for, with runners in scoring position, Bohm has basically been a strikeout machine. He hit the 1 home run in the 1 game. But if you take the Mets 8-2 win out of the equation, these guys have been bad all season. And you take the Cardinals win out of the equation. That's 2 games where the offense showed up this season. Every other game, they haven't showed up. You need to be more consistent. They've scored 2 runs in 18 innings, in the last 18 innings. That's unacceptable. And I'm just talking about the last 2 games. It's probably more than that when you talk about the game before that. Something needs to change. Unless we put up 6 runs tonight or more, something needs to change. Because at this point, the lineup might as well be Gregorius first, Segura second, Harper third, Realmuto fourth, and then 5th through 9th can be anyone willing to give 30% effort. Or 5th through 8th, and then a pitcher spot. Anyone willing to give 30% effort should be taking up the 5th through 8 hitting positions. Even if that means picking fans out of the stands. Because I can tell you, I'd show up and I'd put a bat on my shoulders and I'd compete if they called me out to go on the field. I mean, Andrew McCutchen is batting under 200. I guarantee if I went up to the plate, I would be batting as well as Roman Quinn. Because I would just be, sitting on a fastball, and I would hit a fastball, and I'd bunt it down the left field line, and I'd reach, because I'm kind of fast. If I place a good bunt, I might get on base. I would be batting as well as Roman Quinn right now. People that played in college would be batting better than Roman Quinn right now. You could call up probably somebody that was released from a single A team last year, and they would be batting at least just as well as Roman Quinn. So, that's all I'm going to say. Something at center field has to change. Something offensively needs to change. It's unacceptable to be scoring 2 runs over the course of 2 games. And, Nola pitched a complete game, and we were still worried the whole time because we didn't know if he was going to give up a 2-run homer that would have tied it, like what happened in the first game of the season against Atlanta. Because we're kind of skeptical at this point. Okay, the offense isn't putting up runs. And so I was kind of hesitant when they put Nola back out for the 9th inning. I was like, okay, if he puts a runner on, though, he has to come out immediately. There is no questioning that. He has to come out. Because if he gives up a 2-run homer, the game is tied. Which you shouldn't be saying at the 9th inning. Ridiculous. Something needs to change. Anyway, that is going to be it for this podcast. I know this was a shorter one than usual. Maybe I'll have more content, and I'll try to get back into the swing of things. Talking a bit more about different topics. But anyway, my social media is at FairweatherFan. That's PHAN. That's how I spell fan. It's pretty funky, I know, but PH is, Philadelphia. That's what it stands for. That's kind of the point, If I have to explain that, there you go. The website is FairweatherFan, also spelled the same way, .weebly.com. And so thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope to see you next time on the Fairweather Fan Podcast.